Hello and good afternoon. Happy December, everyone. Happy holiday season. Thank you for those that are joining us this beautiful day. Well, it's beautiful in California. Hopefully, for those that are experiencing, different climate and weather conditions, hopefully we can send some good energy your way. My name is Ashley Watterson. I am an organizational development consultant and coach, and I am really just excited to have this conversation today. I'm here with a few of my amazing team members, Seth and Pierre, who will be joining us in just a second. But we have two special guests this time. You may remember early, maybe a few months ago, we had some conversations about the executive mindset, about how to really prepare emerging leaders, senior leaders to be at the executive level. And so today we are here to talk about this amazing program that we have been facilitating over the last few months. And so I'd like to welcome the rest of my crew here to join me in this conversation and to introduce themselves. Hello, team. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Glad to be
We're
here.
real good today. Yeah, excited to be here. Seth, I got a question before we jump into our conversation today. Yep. Is that a quarter zip?
So you know it, brother. Listen, I am a quarter zip OG. I can appreciate all these YNs coming on as of lately, man. But us OGs, we've been holding it down. And I think you might have joined the club today. No?
Oh yeah, you already know. You know what it is. It's the executive quarter zip. Good to see everyone hanging out with us. If you're just hanging out with us for the first time, my name is Pierre Quinn. I'm director of the cohort experience for Executive Mind, and I'm looking forward to sharing a bit more about our program and sharing a little bit about our journey with you. And I'm glad to be on with Seth and Ashley and our guests as well.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to go ahead and allow our two amazing leaders an opportunity to introduce themselves. We have Yvette here and Chris here. So Yvette and Chris, if you can just start off by sharing who you are, your role, your industry, and then go ahead and just jump into, why have you joined this amazing cohort? Well, we think it's amazing, and we'd love to hear your perspective on this. Yvette, let's go to you first.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Appreciate you all having me today. Yvette, my name is Yvette Mesa Vega. I am a director of strategic initiatives at Alliance College Ready Public Schools at the moment. And I am in the K-12 education space, have been in this space for, I believe, probably over 10 years now. And for me, part of the reason why I joined this program is, truthfully, I love learning and growing. And so I have done tons of different fellowships or programs of this kind. And so I was really excited to continue to just learn and grow more with you all. And so thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Yvette. And Chris, please.
Yeah, hey everyone. Chris Bartley here. And I guess the industry would be considered, is consulting considered an industry? Y'all help me out. It's cross industry, but basically the goal is to help leaders. I call them high capacity leaders, but these individuals who have to make high stakes decisions, but doing so through spiritual discernment. So executive discernment, but using spiritual intelligence is rather what it is. So I guess if you could put kind of a fancy, or maybe not fancy, but a more straightforward term around it, it's basically an executive advisor. We're going to go with that.
Okay. Yeah, I would say consulting is an industry, like you said, cross industries. So that's great. You have opportunities across industries, across sectors. So, we wanted to have this conversation. We've been going through this program for the last couple of months and really wanting to get your take. And my first question is, what was happening in your career or leadership journey that made you say, I needed something different or I'm ready to take it to the next level?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll hop in. So, I experienced a major professional career shift over the last, I think maybe 7-8 months now. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that didn't shift was the executive positioning. So the initial goal was, through mentors of mine, was to position myself as, they call it the multiplying force of the CEO, right? The chief of staff. And as much as I was trying to push for that to happen, investing in all sorts of resources and people to make it work out, it just wouldn't work out, So the doors I ultimately, determined were, they were divinely closed, because there's no way, coming from like having referrals and just walking into, rooms and interviews from recruiters, to now doing and putting time, money, effort, energy into getting to the next level, and not one interview, y'all. That's crazy. That's wild. So, kind of going into the prayer closet and realizing that, okay, yeah, there's a different direction. And so it's not me, in a sense, positioning myself as the executive that I know to be, but to be in that position, as much as it was helping those who are already in that position to gain a level of executive and spiritual discernment for complex decision making. So it just aligned, the timing, aligned when I got the invitation to join. And so, I know we'll be talking about the relational, the strategic mindset, all of those things come into play when now I now am, in a sense, learning, and some of it is relearning, right? What it is to be not just an executive, but a leader who knows how to really dive deep into self-reflection, because that's the core of this whole thing. So
that's good.
Yeah,
I'll jump in here. Thanks so much, Chris, for sharing. So I think for me, it was kind of, being in like high stakes, quick pace environments. I think I started for myself realizing how much outside of the skill sets, like having the skills to be able to execute your role, being able to find ways in which we can collaboratively work efficiently and effectively was one of those things that I think for me, I knew that I needed to continue that growth, especially as if I was looking into, in the future, looking at roles that would require, me potentially engaging in like a chief role or a managing director role. And so I think I knew that there were these skill sets that I really needed to continue developing. And that's one thing that I really have appreciated from working with you all, is that it is really more about that emotional intelligence that is required to work with people who are potentially very different from you, the different communication styles that come up, especially in these high stakes, quick pace environments. And so I think that for me has been one of the things that I kind of realized, and part of why I've really valued my involvement with you all.
What I love about those comments, and thanks, Chris and Yvette, for sharing with us. You both are talking about transitions of sorts. Chris, immediate transition. Yvette, you're talking about transitions over time. I love how you framed out your role before. Here's my role for now. Here's what I'm doing for now. And what does the future look like? And I think what's helpful here, and Seth, if you could jump in here and just talk about how we frame leadership in the executive mindset cohort. And I think that's going to be a good nudge, especially for people who are maybe watching us, maybe this first time hanging out with us on a podcast or a live stream. And they're like, okay, I see executive mindset. I know it's a leadership conversation. Like, what am I missing? If you could sort of close the gap for us. You might be on mute.
Man, that is such a rookie mistake.
I know, man. And you got the quarter zip on too?
So he forgot his matcha, that's why.
I know, right? So when we look at leadership, the way that we've chosen to define leadership, and obviously there's a lot of different definitions. I think the most central agreed upon definition is that leadership is influence, right? The ability to lead and influence people towards a certain outcome. We chose to frame it just a little bit differently around the idea of leadership is the ability to deploy the highest version of yourself into circumstances to create outcomes that matter, right? So let me just say that again, that leadership is the ability to deploy the highest version of yourself into circumstances to create outcomes that matter. And so what that assumes is that every day that you show up as an individual, you show up as as a high self, you have a high self and you have a low self. And when you show up, you're kind of somewhere on that spectrum of I'm either showing up like fully present, fully engaged at the highest level of myself, or I'm showing up like depleted and empty and reactive. And so the entire our entire cohort is really framed around how do we ensure that leaders who are operating at the executive level or preparing to operate at the executive level, that they are showing up at the highest version of themselves. As a leader, you can afford, especially if you are an executive leader, a director, a VP of some level, maybe you are moving up that ladder, you cannot afford to show up as a low version of yourself. There's too much at risk. You have too many direct and indirect reports. There's the organization is dependent on you, and not just the organization, but your staff, your employees, their well-being, their financial well-being, their retirement. All of that is riding on you as an executive making sound strategic decisions. And in order for you to do that, you have to be able to think clearly, respond appropriately, have emotional awareness, be attuned with what's going on, both inside of yourself and around yourself. And so we've designed this cohort to really expose managers, supervisors, directors to the principles that we believe are essential to ensure that you show up as your highest self, right? And so that's how we framed this work. This cohort is, man, we want to ensure that when you step into the C-suite, whether it's a chief executive officer role, or maybe you are the chief financial officer or COO, or maybe you're over, you're the chief AI and tech person, that when people are looking to you for leadership, that you're able to lead from your highest self.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to, also ask, Chris and Yvette. Yvette, I know this is true for you, Chris. Have you all participated in other, leadership development programs? And if so, how has this been a different experience compared to those opportunities that you've been involved in the past?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm trying to really go back and think, have I ever been a part of one that has been this extended? I think that's the difference. And also as structured, because every module that we're going through is connected to each other. Even when we've had some of the guest presenters that have come, it all kind of interlinks. Like hopefully we talk about it, but the session that we had with the primal questions. Oh my goodness, eye-opening, right? So I would say it would be those two things. The cadence makes a difference too. It gives you enough time to breathe, to really think about it, to really give yourself time as well, not just to think, but to also implement. And of course, structures change and things change. But I think for me, the cadence was right, because allowing the structure that we have right now, the frequency of when we meet, gives you time to really sit, digest, and also gives you the opportunity to actually practice what we're actually learning. And once again, I think it's also the structure. Each module is linked to the next before it and after it, which also helps as well. So it just feels right now holistic. So you're not just getting theory, but we're also getting some practical. Some of the labs that we've done, A1. And I think that it just helps to solidify everything that we've been learning so far.
Well, I love this question. I think you know that already, Ashley, but so for me, I think what's been very different about this opportunity is that in previous fellowships and programs, I mean, I love all of them, honestly, for many different reasons, and they've been incredibly helpful in my journey. But I think what I remember most from other programs, it's, you have a problem of practice. It's how do you update your LinkedIn, focusing on networking, all very important, right? Or like there's a group project that you all are working on together. And all of that I think it's really critical to leadership. And what I specifically love about being in sessions with you all is that you give us the time to do some very needed self-reflection in terms of how we are showing up for ourselves, how are we showing up for others, how are we managing the people that report to us in a way like Seth, like you mentioned, like, are you deploying the highest version of yourself in your interactions? And how are you, building your own self-awareness so that you can continue to work on how you show up?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely intentional in the design, and it's good to hear both of you reflect in that way. We spent a lot of time behind the scenes in discussing for this initial cohort of the executive mindset, how we were going to roll it out, what we want to capture in the experience, and how do we create something that's going to be valuable. As you said, we've all been through leadership development programs, really short ones, maybe some weekends, maybe some extended ones. And there are parts of it that we said, we like this, or we need a little more of that. And in our planning for you and the rest of the individuals in the cohort, we said, how do we extend it so it's not just, man, we had 7 good sessions and one of them was really good and the rest of them could have been an email. So and how do we craft it? And your response here is really valuable. And also it goes to show that what's really happening too, also the two of you and the rest of the cohort leaning in is an incredible part of the experience as well. And I don't want to discount that in any way. We can have a deck, we can give labs and exercises. And if the participants, if the leaders in the space, if you two aren't leaning into and really pulling on the strings, then it doesn't create the program that it's been thus far. It's bittersweet. They're almost at the end of this cohort. We got a couple of sessions left, but it's good that you've been with us this. And I know Ashley and Seth, I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, 100%. You all have been phenomenal as you've, journeyed with us and heard the content, responded to the content, and given us feedback about the content. I want to just commend the two of you all and others who are in this cohort, because most leaders they feel like, and on some level, they are being pulled in 100 directions, right? Mm-hmm. And it feels like you just don't have time to breathe, to come up for air. And I mean, you are double booked, you have meetings on meetings on meetings, and you're just constantly bombarded with requests. And so taking the time to unplug for 2.5 hours, way with the cadence that we've been going, every other week, I know that may not have been easy for you to set aside that time, but I want to say that your future leadership will thank you for the investment that you've made. And for leaders who are watching this, we totally get it, right? That there is a lot upon you. I just want to remind you that you have to take time to sharpen the axe, right? There's that old, I think it's Abraham Lincoln story. He said, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. And I think that is approach, that is the mindset that we've taken in designing this type of experience. This is axe sharpening time for you to unplug, for you to really figure out, okay, how do I ensure that I'm showing up stronger, better, more confident in my voice, in my position, in my strategic thinking, in how I'm leading my team, and at the core, how I'm leading myself. And so if you're not taking the time to sharpen the axe, if you're not taking time every month to intentionally develop yourself, it's going to show up down the road. Right. Yeah. And so it's something that you cannot escape. And so, kudos to the two of you all, and to any other leaders who may be watching this who do actually take time and invest that developmental energy into making sure that they are deploying the highest version of themselves.
So I want to jump in, Ashley. I hope you give me permission. I want to ask this question because Chris nudged on it. And we have inside the cohort, and then we have application outside the cohort. I want to ask about inside the cohort for Chris and for Yvette. I know you mentioned primal question, Chris, so maybe that's going to be built into your answer. But I want to know, from exercises, from frameworks, from breakout sessions, from peer coaching, for the two of you, what are some of the elements of the program that have been most impactful, or you found yourself mentioning it, talking about it, maybe sharing it on socials afterward?
Rookie mistake. Had to find the mute button. Huh? It's There was one. I need to pull it up because I don't think I was able to share it because I was out of town for the last session. But there was one session where you guys had us. See if I can find it really quickly. You guys actually had us draw our strengths, what we look like when we're in the zone, hidden talent, and I did it. Is here. I don't even know if you can see it because of the lighting, but it's here. And I mean, the last time that I was sketching something out, not me on the other side, facilitating a workshop, but actually being on the other side was, I think, the Creative Problem Solving Institute. That was a long time ago, where we actually are playing with Play-Doh and sketching on paper and just kind of taking the creative ideas and putting them on paper, and not in a trivial way. I think that was one of the most, I guess I would say my favorite, I can't even say part, but it's parts, because there's always something that's integrated with our breakout sessions in every session, right? So I would say that would be one. If you wanted something specific, then of course I would mention, the primal questions was one, the creative loop versus the reactive loop. Okay, so that's another one too. I don't want to take up too much time here, but the diagrams, all right. So that one has stuck with me from, I think that was our very first session, right? I think Seth. Yep. And it was like, wow, okay, I see myself going through the loop, and when I break it, or when I stay in, let's say, the reactive loop. And so those would probably be the two most effective for me, being a visual learner, that it really helps the information to not just pop out at me, but to challenge me. Because then I can see these, it's almost like I see them happening, as in relationships and, just in work. And these diagrams or the labs just kind of pop out visually before me, and I can choose, okay, are we gonna, what diagram are we gonna choose, or how are we gonna navigate this? So yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yvette, what about you?
Yeah, Chris, I absolutely love how you said now you have a choice, right, between how you're going to respond. So I would agree with that, and I would say that it's so hard to pick the one. So I agree with Chris. There's parts. That diagram specifically was one of the things that I was going to mention, like whether you're in the reactive or being responsive. And I think that session helped me take a look at maybe scenarios or situations that I was having a hard time with, and make a, reflect on whether I have been reactive or responsive and how I would moving forward. So that I would agree with that one. I think the last session that we had was also really powerful for me. I think there's always something in a session that stays and lingers that's been super helpful. And so the one from last week was around communication, right? And you all shared kind of, there's this middle ground between being direct and warm, and finding that middle ground being important. And so that was, it has stuck with me, and I am working on being more direct. And so it's so helpful.
That's good.
I love that we talked about, or you all mentioned, it's not just about hearing the frameworks, but we're also challenging you to go back to your jobs and to your day-to-day and really integrate this work. So I love to hear that it's lingering with you, it's staying with you, you're having time to let it sink in, and then find ways and opportunities to apply that in your everyday life. So I think that's not only a testament to the program, but a testament to you and your readiness and your commitment to taking this and really leaning in and applying that in those situations, which we know that experiential component of your leadership development is that 70% of that of making that impact, of really ensuring that it's sinking in and that it's integrated into who you are as a leader. So, kudos to you for doing the work, really doing the work, the experiential work in your organizations and in your leadership. And Yvette, I know you're going to have to hop off in a couple minutes, but I'm going to ask that, we'll be able to reshare this, and, you all can reshare this and repost this. We might even ask you to throw a couple of comments into the comment area so people can also hear your insight and your perspective. But I want to be mindful of your time, and I know you're going to have to hop in a minute, but I want to acknowledge you right now and just thank you for giving us your insight and your feedback and your truth about this program. But we're going to continue the conversation. But Yvette, I don't know if you have any final words you want to say before you have to leave us.
Yeah, well, thank you again for having me and allowing me to be a part of the opportunity to engage with you all. And I would say that if you're thinking about doing the program, I say you do it. It's honestly so helpful. It's really incredible to be around other people who are willing to be reflective and willing to grow in their leadership. So thank you again.
Wonderful.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Yvette. All right, Chris, it's all you now.
The cheese stands alone.
Pierre, Seth, do you have any initial other reflections or questions you want to throw to Chris? Otherwise, I got some.
Yo, man, just lead us, Ashley.
Okay. Chris, you've talked a little bit about some of the breakouts, and Yvette has also mentioned, the peers. I'm curious, how has the peer cohort also influenced your growth, your leadership growth?
There's a term that stands out that I don't think I've ever heard, or at least in a long time. And I believe it's collective intelligence. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So yeah, the idea that, now in this cohort, it's really a reality that we have like-minded individuals, but also with different points of view. And I think that there's a difference, right? Where you can be in a group of people that have a similar mindset, but on the spectrum, we talked about what was the very bottom, not that it's terrible, but what was it, the reactive or the socialized mind, all the way up to the was the creative mind? Is that the one that's the most?
Yeah, well, it goes from the egocentric, which is actually bad.
Egocentric, right? Okay, yeah.
Right. to the unitive mind, which is at the highest self-transformed mind.
Right.
Yep.
So we can't read minds, right? So we don't know the mindsets, right, of everyone that's in the cohort, but it's safe to assume that no one came. If they did, they kind of checked their egos at the door, right? So that's what I mean by kind of like-minded, not necessarily groupthink, but with that being said, though, the collective intelligence of having different perspectives, there are ideas that might be either challenged or ideas that are highlighted or pushed even further. I like that. And once again, you can't really experience that if you don't have a safe space, number one, and you can't really experience that if people don't show up consistently. So I think that with both of those, where you have people who are committed, and then you also have people who not only show up consistently, but feel open enough to share their experiences or their point of view on what we're learning, that goes a long way. And it helps you to grow. It helped me to grow, or helps me to grow as a leader too. So
yeah, I think there's something to be said, and we try to do it in this cohort. I know we're definitely going to lean more heavily into it in future cohorts, but really creating like learning triads or dyads where people are paired together and can learn. There's this saying, iron sharpens iron. And so we recognize that, we do better when we can feed off one another, we can learn and grow together. And so I think that's what you're getting at. I have this quote that's often at the bottom of many of my email signatures, and it says, give me an idea that stretches my mind and it will never return to its original shape. And I think that's the principle. That's the principle that we're really striving for with this executive mindset, is like, we want to give our leaders and our participants ideas and concepts and opportunities that to stretch their mind, to stretch their brain, to stretch their perspective, to help them see things that they haven't seen up until now about themselves, about how they lead others, about how they lead the organization, so that going forward, your mind will never be its original shape, but you will be better. You will have an increased capacity. And so that happens not necessarily when you're alone reading a book, which, there can be some knowledge. Obviously, there's knowledge transfer when
Yeah.
you're, reading a book, but a lot of it comes when you're in conversations with others and people can challenge your thought process or help you see things from a different perspective.
Chris, can you talk about the dynamic of being in the seat of a learner? Because all four of us have extensive experience in front of the classroom, leading the Zoom call, facilitating the conversation. And all of us have this extensive experience being in the seat of the learner and sometimes wanting to switch that role. One, did you keep yourself how are you keeping yourself in the role of a learner throughout the program? And maybe what's something that surprised you about being in that seat?
So I think part of it is right now experientially, because as I'm in this, I think it's evident in my introduction. I'm still trying to figure out what my role is officially, right? And so I'm still learning this space, as much as now going into a cohort where you're learning more about self-reflection, the executive mindset, and it's almost like one hand is washing the other, or one hand is helping the other hand as far as the humility of it all, the humility of what's happening in real life, and then bringing that humility into, for all intents and purposes, a classroom, right? Where we are sitting and we're learning and we're connecting with each other. That keeps me grounded, because as I'm learning on the outside, it's also taking that mindset and in a sense transferring it all into, learning on the inside as well. So it is, I guess, an ego check. If you like, I could either go into the core like I got everything together and it's like, yep, I'm coming with this experience and this background, but that's not how life is right now. Life, as we say, is life in. And so instead of trying to put on airs as if everything is, all structured and I've got it together, nope, we're going to take the what's happening on the outside and bring not the drama, but bring the learning mindset into the inside. And so whatever I get on the inside, I can then take back on or take back to the outside and address what's going on. So I would say that that's probably the biggest thing that has helped to stay at the seat or in the seat of a learner. What was the second question?
Yeah, what were the things that may have surprised you about yourself returning to the seat of a learner and having to sit there through this experience?
When I had to draw out in that lab what I looked like when I was in the zone versus what I look like when I overwork, they were almost the same thing. And I said, my goodness. So for me being, in this productive, sweet spot, if I'm not careful, I can be overproductive and be doing the exact same thing, but more of it. And it's always a compensation for something else, right? And for me, it's because it's the thing that I can control. I can control the work that I'm putting in. You may not necessarily control the output, right, of what's happening with it, but you definitely can control the amount of time and effort, energy, and all of that. And so that's a surprising thing that I noticed, or maybe noticed from a different way, I would say, kind of connecting the dots. Because a lot of these things we know, right? As leaders, those of us who already do self-reflection, but it hits differently when you start to, in a sense, literally map out certain diagrams and you start making the connections and you're just like, oh my goodness. Oh, so I can actually sever, this kind of loop or connection, or, maybe even draw connections first and then realize, so when this happens, this is what I default to. So maybe I can choose a different path, or, insert, this is where the self-reflection comes in, insert a set of questions that allows me to pivot how I'm reacting. So yeah, I think there's some other ones too, like the primal question number 7. I think it's do I have a purpose, or do I have meaning? I think it's kind of like that. So that was also one that stood out, because as much as I operate in a certain way, it's powerful when you can put a simple question to how you're operating, how you show up in life. And so that also was very helpful too. Yeah.
Man, that's what happens for me when Seth is teaching, man. He'll drop a question, and I'm over here. People will see me off to the side. I was like, hey, I'm gonna use that. First, I'm gonna use it on myself. I'm Michael Jackson. I'm gonna start with the man in the mirror, and then I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna deploy the highest version of myself by asking this question to another group of people. So, yeah.
you know, you kind of alluded to this a couple of times, Chris, but I wonder if you can speak to all the reflection, all of the collective intelligence that has happened in the cohort, all of the self-discovery, the new self-awareness. Can you talk about a moment where you've taken all of these learnings and really applied something that you've taken from the program into your work or to the way that you're working with your team, your clients, you know, whoever, your people in your, you know, your relationships, your day-to-day relationship?
Yeah.
What does that application look like for you?
You know, there's an exercise that we did. As a matter of fact, I want to share it with you guys, where we had to write out like a rough sketch of our leadership vision statement.
Mhm.
And what I ended up ultimately, and it might have even evolved since then, but one of the things that I basically kind of settled on was that I'm building something that helps people find direction when everything feels uncertain. It's so funny. One of the best things that we can do as leaders is take even the most immediate of circumstances that we're going through, and even as we're navigating it sometimes, as we're finding the answers, delivering those frameworks or solutions in real time to others. Now, sometimes you got to relax and, you know, you got to make sure, you know, find out if those things actually work or if they play out. But in the season of my life, that's kind of what's happening. And so the rest of the vision statement is that my goal is to lead an organization that teaches faith-driven leaders how to hear God clearly, trust his timing, and move forward with confidence, even when doors close or progress feels delayed. And so at this stage, my role is shifting. I can't just be the one creating content or carrying the message. I have to build a foundation that allows others to carry it too. And that means focusing on structure, leadership development, sustainable systems. And this is where the executive mindset comes in, right? Mm-hmm. So that I'm shifting from being, just to keep it simple, the doer to the thinker, right? I mean, that's like oversimplifying it. But I would say that was definitely one of the experiences that really allowed me to solidify it now, to take this and to carry it into the work that I'm doing now as what I consider an advisory coach.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah. And we're going to bring you back because we are about to start the next few sessions are all on the strategic mindset. So the timing is real good, Chris. We're about to get into it. We're really going to help you map it out and to really, and what you're speaking to is the executive mind. You're not going, you're going from that, from that doing to creating that vision and creating those systems and structures for the organization, for your teams. And that's really what we're trying to do. And that's really what executive leaders need to do. So I love to hear that you've made that shift, that mindset shift,
right?
In doing that work. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, the sustainability now is what the key is. And once again, especially for I think all of us as entrepreneurs are having the entrepreneurial mindset, we know it's about scalability, right? But we can't even scale if we don't even know what to build first. And so there's that fine tension between being the builder and being the maintainer and then being the grower, right? And sometimes you just have to make the shift and then have the trust that the people that you bring in, as you guys know, you bring in will do or continue the building while you either continue to maintain. But some of us, our goal is not, we aren't maintainers. We get bored, we're on to the next thing. What's the next thing that I can build? I can bring somebody in to maintain what's already been built. The executive mindset, though, as you know, I'm learning, is knowing when to choose the shift. When is the shift happening? And then, kind of aligning yourself to that role. So
it's good.
Yeah. Well, I want to be mindful of time. I have, a couple more quick questions for you, Chris, and I definitely want to have Yvette respond to this as well. If you were thinking about, let's talk to the people right now. Let's talk to the people that are thinking, maybe I'm ready to do this, but who would you say this program is for? Let's talk to and let's reach out to those that are maybe on the fence or not really sure if this is the right program. What would you say to those people?
As I'm even thinking about my own network, right, and who I want to reach out to say, hey, listen, this is what you need to get into. Saying it from at the top of my head, I think there may be three types of people. There may be the individuals that they are not sure what it means to be an executive. Listen, when you hear that word, oftentimes people think of the quarters, gray. They think of you got to be in the suit and the tie and the or the business attire and it's so that would be the first. The one who might feel as if they are not necessarily ready for that, but they just need some convincing that they already have it in them. Now, what am I trying to say? I guess as far as a marketing funnel is concerned, it's going to be more convincing to try to get them to to be in the court. But somebody that has enough curiosity to say, you know what, I don't know, but I'm interested. Right. So I would say that would be the first type of person, because by the time that they're done, they realize that they had more in them than they realized. Right. That's one side of the spectrum. I would say the other side of the spectrum, I don't know who's in the middle just yet, is the person. This might be another type that might be difficult to get in, but you never know. Humble enough, but they still feel like I got it together. I know what this means. I know what it means to be an executive. And then when they start going through the sessions, they're like, like, some of the things start hitting them like, oh man, I've been reactive for quite some time. Maybe I do need to refine. Oh, the egocentric level versus the unified. And so they realize I have so much more work to do. I'm there, but there's always more to improve, right? And then the third type of person, I guess they'd be in the middle of the spectrum, the person who's balanced, the one who just wants to improve. Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to the marketing part, y'all, listen, those two on the spectrum, it would be great to have them in because they will have the most mind-blowing, like, oh my goodness, how do you get them in? Well, I guess that's where we come in, right? To convince our colleagues to be like, hey, listen, you think you know, you don't know, so. But yeah, that's what I would say. Those kinds of people, and of course, there are different types, but I would say that just from an awareness perspective, those that don't think that they would consider themselves executives, or those that are and have experience, but there's still more that they need nuances. And I think that that's what this has helped. For those that have experience, there are nuances and terminologies that we didn't know. Mm-hmm. And then those that are in the middle, there's like, you know what, I'm in it, but I would love to know more. I would love to know how to grow, not just know, but also how to grow. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I love all of this. I keep on saying I love it because I it's been so even impactful for me as the program manager who's been, doing a lot of the communicating and, fielding questions and, doing my best to support the leaders that are in the program. I have felt the impact. I am seeing, to your point, Chris, I have a lot more in myself to offer than I even realized. So if you're at any level of that spectrum, please feel free to reach out to us. I want to, give it to Pierre and Seth to kind of add some final maybe comments, and then we'll talk about, what's next. How do you become a part of this program, and what is it going to look like for this next program coming up in 2026? But Seth and Pierre, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Chris, thanks again. We'll see you in the next session. We're gonna have a good time.
Absolutely.
Talk about the executive mindset. So this was, for me, a really rich conversation. A couple takeaways for me in this conversation. One, the experience makes a difference. The experience makes a difference, especially hearing from Chris and Yvette, and they've been in leadership development programs. And how do you curate an experience that is meaningful for people, that has real value and is applicable to where they live, work, and play right now? The other thing is implied. They talked about psychological safe, having that safe space. And we know, the three of us know, when we put them into a breakout conversation, not everything in the breakout comes back to plenary. Some of the conversation just stays there. And to know that they've developed in a short amount of time a rapport with like-minded leaders, so they have the space to really wrestle with some of the challenges that they're having, in the day-to-day work and day-to-day lives, and find safety in talking about those things. And then for us, dropping the one or two nuggets or insights that they talked about in that conversation, to know that the experience is still resonating with them. We all get text messages and emails and updates from the members of the cohort. And that says to me that we have something special, and it would be selfish of us to keep this special thing to ourselves. And that's why we want to invite it. Here's the thing, and we can't invite everybody. That's the thing. We can't invite everyone to our next cohort. We cap the number, but we know just for our inaugural cohort, it was a special experience. Cohort 2 is going to be special as well.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this program, this opportunity is designed for individuals who truly want to grow. And when I say grow, we're talking transformational growth, right? It's not just, oh, let me pick up a few skills, right? Let me pick up a few, workplace, behaviors that will help me become a better communicator. Like, you'll get some of that, but our heart in offering this to leaders is really to help leaders experience transformation so that they can lead at a higher level. And that ultimately, because of your leadership, the people that you lead will be better, right? I think there's this ripple effect that leaders have upon their teams and their teams and the organization and their clients and the stakeholders and the community. And so you really operating at your highest scope, your highest self, is just so important. And so for individuals who you've been a manager for a couple of years, maybe you're on the director level, and you really want to position yourself for that next level, for that promotion, to lead, not just, hey, maybe you put in the years, but you really want to make sure that when you step into that executive level role, that you're able to shrink the learning curve, right? You're able to shrink the amount of time that you spend in imposter syndrome. We, the three of us, have all coached leaders who have just been promoted. And one of the predominant feelings and emotions that they all have is, yeah, I'm grateful for this opportunity, but I don't know if I am ready for this, deserve this. What if they find me out? They wrestle with this imposter syndrome. And so the heart of what we're doing is to really help shrink the amount of time that you spend in imposter syndrome and that learning curve, so that you can step into that executive level role with the confidence and the clarity and the certainty to know that, I not only have the technical skill to do my job, but I also have the human skill, the conceptual skill, the strategic skill to lead at a very high level. And so if that's you, we would love to continue the conversation and see if you joining this would be a good fit.
Our next cohort starts January 16th, 2026. And in a way, it seems like a long way away, but we all know it's tomorrow.
Right. Especially for organizations.
It's basically tomorrow. And we want to encourage you to get connected with us. There's a couple of ways to do it. Number one, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, feel free to DM any of us, Ashley, Seth, or myself on LinkedIn, and ask for more information. If you're not watching it on LinkedIn, maybe you're watching it on YouTube or you're watching it on Facebook. We're going to drop a couple of links into the chat. You're going to see our email, and you're also going to see our link to go directly to our cohort page and apply for the next cohort. However you get to us, don't worry. However you get to us, I promise you we'll respond. The other opportunity that you have, because maybe you sit at the executive level already, maybe you lead a team, maybe you lead an organization, and you've been thinking somewhere around Q2 of 2025, you've been thinking, I really need to put my people, I need to put my high potentials, I need to put my mid-level leaders, I need to put some people who are on the executive track, I need to put them in a meaningful program. And you have been Googling, you have been searching, maybe you asked ChatGPT a couple of times what the program is that will be a great fit for your leaders. And you just happen to stumble on this live stream or replay on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. And this is the answer to the question that you've been rolling around in your mind for the last several months. The Executive Mindset Cohort will help your leaders equip, empower, and transition your leaders to the place where they need to be. So just sign up. Let's chat. Let's make it happen for you and for your team. Share this recording, share the insights from it, and let's do what we can to elevate the executive mind. Ashley, Seth, did I miss anything?
That's it.
That's all. And I just want to add, we have a good time.
It's gonna be a good time.
If you were wondering, if that was ever in doubt.
It may or may not be quarter zips every time, but it's gonna be a good time every time.
Well, thank you both. Thank you for those that have tuned in. Thank you for those that are watching. Again, shout out and thanks to Chris and Yvette for joining us today. Other cohort members, if you're seeing this, you want to chime in, please do. We wish you all a happy holiday season. Again, please feel free to reach out to us, direct message us. And we're happy to talk to you about the program. And hopefully we'll see you in the program in 2026. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.